Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are looking at a pretty fun Thursday night slate. And this one, definitely the marquee matchup, rematch of the NBA Finals last season. The Bucks headed to Phoenix, taking on the Suns after the Suns are home now after a pretty long 4-game road trip there. So we'll take a look at some of the stuff in this one for you guys. Nate does have his great article up on playpicks.com with some best bets and player props in there for you. And make sure to like and subscribe to that page. We've got a couple other videos up for you today, including that player props video we'll look to stay hot on, well above 500 to start the first 3 days of this week anyway. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or a DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com and find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for tonight. Nate, let's get into it.
Yeah, the premier game is the NBA Finals rematch with the Bucks at the Suns here. Milwaukee opened at +4. It's +3 right now, and that total has crept up from 231 to 233. It might continue to rise given how good Milwaukee's been on offense lately. But we'll circle back to that game. 6 other games here on a pretty full Thursday night slate. It is the trade deadline day. Make sure you check the news after 3 p.m. today because guys might be moving places, including James Harden. His Brooklyn Nets are +3 at the Wizards. It might be just Kyrie Irving's Brooklyn Nets by the end of the day. We break that down in a separate episode, talk about how you might want to bet that game. We know Harden won't play either way. We also have Grizzlies -11 at the Pistons, the Heat -5 at the Pelicans, Raptors -8 at Rockets, Clippers +7 at the Mavs, and the Knicks +9 at the Warriors, who are on a back-to-back after losing in Utah last night. The Bucks, yeah, like I said, they've been on fire offensively. We all know 4-0 in their last 4 games, averaging nearly 130 points per game. But you really have to look at the competition in their last 3 road games. A Blazers team that had just quit. I know they came up and bit the Lakers last night, which is just great schadenfreude. But besides the point, the Clippers, who have started to play really fast and not play much defense. And then those Lakers, who couldn't stop anybody and really can't stop Giannis, who just comes to play every time they play really, high-profile teams. You told me that their spread numbers are actually one of the worst in the league on the road, especially when they're away dogs, Milwaukee.
Yeah.
That's not usually a situation where they had all of their big 3, though. They are still +16 when they have all 3 of those guys on the floor. Everybody's healthy at this point, except Brook Lopez, of course. So I do think that this is a situation where Giannis will come out and shine, as we've seen against the Lakers recently, against the Nets, the Warriors over the last month or so. So I do like Giannis props for sure, but I don't like Milwaukee to necessarily approach that same 130 number and get us near this total, which is probably going to close above 235. I would think the Suns are just too tough at home to necessarily give up that same production. They're also going to have their antennae up for this matchup, of course, after what Giannis did to them in the finals last year. Even when he started going on that tear in the finals, the last 4 meetings, as Milwaukee cruised to a title there, went 2-1-1 to the under. They averaged 219 points per game, certainly not the 236 we're looking at here. Milwaukee actually is 8-3 to the under when they're underdogs this season. So this is a situation where they're going to have to bring it just as much on defense, which they have recently, holding opponents under 109 in this 4-game span, 10th in defensive rating, 2nd in net rating. We know the Nets, the Suns are near the top in terms of net rating and defensive rating all season. Very tough to beat at home. Very tough to get free throws, fast break points, or paint points against the Suns at home. That's Milwaukee's bread and butter. And they're shooting a lot of threes too, but the Suns have also done a great job limiting that. They're allowing 105 points per game at home. So I really feel more confident about the under here. And if you feel confident about a close game, you have to like the Suns. They're an incredible 22-3 in clutch games decided by 5 points in the last 5 minutes, with the league best 45 net rating. That's even better since we turned to January, 10-0 with a 63 net rating. I would consider, Milwaukee's either been blowing out teams because they just can't withstand this Giannis wave, or they might get into a close game here down the stretch, in which case you gotta like Phoenix to pull out a close one. So my angles are to get the teaser up here so that Milwaukee gets 7 or 8 points on the road and say, you know what, they're not going to get blown out, but I don't know if they're going to win. Or it might be to bet the exact winning margin for the Suns, 1 to 10 points, and say, they're not going to blow out the Bucks, but they are going to pull out yet another close win, especially against a team that just got them in the finals.
I love that. I love the 1 to 10. I do like a teaser in this game as well. We don't try to promote teases way too often with 4 points in the NBA, as we do feel like we can actually nail these lines. But this is one where I would love to just feel great and get pretty much even money on betting the Bucks to lose by 8 points or less for sure. And then look, if there's going to be a blowout in this game, I do think it's the home team more so than the away team. I think Phoenix is happy to be home after that 4-game road stretch where they did go 3-1 and 2-2 against the spread, but still being at home for them is something that we know they love, at least winning straight up. They don't lose straight up at home. And you mentioned their clutch time stat. So I think the total is so high that, I know the game that these teams have gone over, I believe in their last 4 games, the last 4 games against each other. The Bucks won all those, or at least covered in all of those. So I'm sorry, they did win and cover in all 4 of those. So, the point is they like playing against the Suns. I don't see the Suns blowing them out for that reason. I don't see the Bucks blowing them out. I like the Suns as well in terms of your logic of winning. I'm never going to, if it's a close game, I'm not going to feel comfortable picking against Chris Paul and these Suns. A 65 net rating in the last 5 minutes of games when they're, when it's a 5-point game or so in 10 games. I mean, that's an absurd, that's 50 minutes of just being, 63 points per 100% per 100 possessions better than your opponent. That's completely crazy. That's like playing a college team when you're in the NBA. So you don't want to necessarily pick against them in that situation. They're 6-1 straight home since January. 6-1 straight up at home since January, but they are 3-4 against the spread. And those clutch time numbers that we mentioned, I mean, they played 19 clutch time games, this season, which means that, these games are pretty close for them and they pull them out. And so that's why, I do like it to continue to be close. We've got plenty of use case here showing that they play, down to their opponents a bit, especially at home as of late, which is something that you love because if you're going to play down at all, Milwaukee's going to be bringing it. You mentioned Giannis is definitely going to be bringing it, when it's a primetime game like this, but you're also talking about how well he plays against this team and, dating back to last season, dropping 40 points a game on him, 10.5 boards and 3.5 assists, just an incredible usage rate and incredible efficiency. He's not really shooting from 3. He's got 15 free throw attempts a game since last season playing against the Suns, making 13 of them a game. If Giannis is going to hit 13 of 15 free throws a game, he's going to get close to 30, if not over 30 points pretty much every time he does that. He's done it to the tune of 40 against the Suns. The Suns are good every single stat you look at on defense, but they have regressed a bit in their last 2 weeks, at least on defense, dropping their defensive rating a bit down to about 12th or so, which it was 5th. So at least, it's going down a bit up. They've risen that defensive rating up a bit in the last 2 weeks to about 111 points per 100 possessions, which is way high for them, at least this season. And then you look at where they're doing they sort of receded. It is in the 3-point range, which Milwaukee has the second most made 3-pointers on the season, and shoots a huge percentage of their points, as we know, from 3 if it's not Giannis crashing down low. So, I think the Bucks can't score against them, as the Suns have shown that they're giving up a bunch of 3-pointers so far, as of late anyway. And once again, that clutch time stat is a little bit of a two-sided coin. It means that they're going to pull it out, but you also know it means that this game is close in the last 5 minutes. And if that's the case for the Bucks, while I trust the Suns to win this game more, I definitely trust the Bucks to be able to hang and keep it within 8 points or so, as you mentioned, and I'll follow you on that tease just to get the Bucks a little bit more breathing room.
Yeah, I mean, you got to love the Suns to be able to close against this team, considering I just looked up the Bucks haven't been in a close game on the road in about 2 weeks, and then they're 0-3 with a negative 57 net rating in their last 3 road games in the clutch here. So, yeah, the Phoenix with those double-headed closers of Booker and Paul, you gotta trust them at home. The exact numbers there is plus 175 for them to win by single digits tonight. You mentioned they're 17-2 straight up since January 1st. I think their defense has regressed a little bit because it's been a 4-game road trip, and they do come back home where they're a lot more steady here. They get a little bit of extra rest here to look ahead at the Bucks. And yeah, the offense still very good for Phoenix, but the pace has slowed down when they've hosted Eastern Conference teams for sure. They've won 8 of those last 9 matchups, of course, the exception being in Atlanta last week. But I just think that you're getting a lot of juice here for the Bucks for the Bucks to regress offensively because of their recent competition. And you look at the Suns' recent competition at home too. They've gone over in 3 of their last 4. It's been teams like the Wolves, Nets, Pacers, and the Jazz who just are continuing to go over when they're on the road. The Wolves kind of by silly numbers right now. So it's just a different type of game. If it is played with a playoff type atmosphere, you have to like the pace to slow down and for us to be closer to those totals we saw in the finals rather than what we've seen in these regular season shootouts as these teams go across the conference usually.
Yeah, no, I'm fully with that, and just adding to the idea of it slowing down. Yeah, the Suns' pace has slowed down tremendously, as you mentioned. And then, really looking at who each team is playing, you can actually add the Spurs in there as well to why, Phoenix has been going over. And Milwaukee, I think they're the team that wants to go over. But like you said, this is going to be a situation where Milwaukee's been playing cupcakes and scoring a ton of points. Phoenix has been playing tough road games and limiting a certain amount of points and not being able to score as well or giving up a few more points. But we'll come back to their defensive prowess at home tonight as well. So I do like that pick there with you as well. That is all the time we have for you in this one. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. Check out those other couple videos we have up for you today on this pretty fun Thursday night slate. And until we see you next, happy betting.